The Council's fatal mistake. The Galactic Council sat in their grand chamber, surrounded by towering pillars of glowing blue light. 12 alien leaders from different species stared at the massive hologram in the center of the room. It displayed a disturbing sight: human warships moving toward the Council's home system. Supreme Chancellor Vortis, the leader of the Council, tapped his long, clawed fingers on the table. His reptilian eyes narrowed. "This must be a mistake," he said. "Humans attacking us? Impossible." Grand Strategist Selvorn, a tall insectoid being, buzzed his wings in amusement. "They do not have the technology to challenge us, Supreme Chancellor. Their ships are primitive compared to our fleets." A deep rumbling laugh spread across the room. The Council members had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They had conquered, enslaved, and destroyed countless species. Humanity was nothing to them, just another race struggling to survive in the darkness of space. High Lord Sen, a pale, ghostly alien with sharp, needle-like teeth, leaned forward. "We plan to deal with the humans soon anyway. Let them come. This will be their final mistake." But then, something strange happened. The hologram flickered. Reports began pouring in from different star systems. Communication networks were failing. Space stations were going silent. The entire outer defense grid had gone offline. A cold silence filled the chamber. "What is happening?" Vortis demanded. A trembling officer rushed into the room. His amphibian skin glistened with sweat. "Supreme Chancellor, our long-range sensors." He hesitated, his voice shaking. "They are detecting a massive fleet, thousands of warships. They have entered our territory, undetected." Vortis' eyes widened. "That's not possible. No fleet can move without our sensors detecting them." "They have," the officer whispered, "and they are already here." Suddenly, alarms blared. The hologram zoomed in on the outer edge of the Council's home system. Hundreds, no, thousands, of human warships had appeared out of hyperspace. And they weren't alone. Strange energy signatures pulsed from the human fleet. Their ships glowed with a crimson hue, their hulls lined with unknown alloys. These were not the fragile ships the Council had encountered before. These were weapons of war, designed for destruction. Then the unthinkable happened. The system's twin suns flickered. For a moment, darkness swallowed the system. Planets, moons, space stations, all were covered in a terrifying black void. When the light returned, the Council's defense fleet was gone, completely erased. Not a single ship remained. A deep robotic voice echoed through every communication channel, every hologram, and every speaker across the system. "This is Admiral Hayes of the United Terran Empire. You have 30 minutes to surrender. If you refuse, your empire will fall today." The Council members froze. "The United Terran Empire," Sen whispered. "Since when do the humans have an empire?" Selvorn slammed his clawed fist on the table. "They're bluffing. This is a trick." But Supreme Chancellor Vortis knew better. His species had ruled for thousands of years, but never before had he seen anything like this. The humans had hidden their strength. They had waited. And now, they had returned, stronger than ever. "No," Vortis said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We made a mistake." The hologram flickered again. The human fleet had moved closer. Their warships eclipsed entire planets, their engines humming with a terrible energy. One ship, larger than any station the Council had ever built, hovered above the capital world. The Iron Fist, a name that sent chills through the Council chamber. Sen turned to Vortis. "What do we do?" Vortis closed his eyes. The arrogance of the Council had led them here. They had believed humanity was weak. They had planned to wipe them out before they could rise. But it was the Council that would be wiped out instead. The fate of the galaxy was about to change forever, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The sky turns red. The silence in the Council chamber was suffocating. The hologram of the human fleet loomed over the room, displaying an image that none of them could comprehend. These were not the fragile, struggling ships the Council had observed decades ago. These were war machines, massive, sleek, and unstoppable. Supreme Chancellor Vortis turned to his commanders. How did they get this strong? We monitored them for centuries. Their technology was light years behind us. No one had an answer. Then, the massive warship Iron Fist moved closer. The energy readings from its hull were off the charts. It was as if the ship itself was alive, pulsing with power beyond anything the Council had seen before. A deep voice echoed through the Council's communication network. Final warning. Surrender now, or we will take your empire by force. The Council leaders exchanged uneasy glances. Surrender? To humans, it was unthinkable. Selvorn, the insectoid strategist, hissed in frustration. We still have fleets. We can fight. We outnumber them. Vortis hesitated. The Council had fleets, millions of ships spread across the galaxy. But the problem was, those ships were far away. Their home system was vulnerable. And the humans knew it. Suddenly, the system's defensive orbital cannons activated, firing powerful plasma beams at the human fleet. The humans didn't move. The beams struck their ships, and then vanished. The Council's most powerful weapons simply disappeared, absorbed into the humans' energy shields like raindrops hitting a window. They're invincible. A Council officer whispered in horror. The Council's largest battleships launched from the planet's surface, hundreds of vessels rising into space, fighters, cruisers, dreadnoughts, all preparing for war. Then, the humans attacked. A single command came from the Iron Fist. Burn them. The sky turned red. Thousands of human warships fired in perfect unison. Streams of red-hot plasma and high-energy railgun rounds ripped through the Council's fleet. Alien battleships exploded one by one, their debris scattering through space like shattered glass. Fighters tried to dodge but were vaporized instantly. Even the Council's dreadnoughts, massive warships the size of cities, stood no chance. In less than 5 minutes, the Council's fleet was gone. On the surface of the capital planet, billions of aliens looked to the sky in horror. The protective fleet that had stood above them for generations was no more. Vortis watched in shock. His empire, his rule was crumbling. This isn't possible, he whispered. Another message came from Admiral Hayes. You thought you could destroy us. You thought we were weak. The Iron Fist moved even closer, casting a shadow over the entire capital city. Now you will learn what it means to fear humanity. The screen went black. Vortis knew one thing. The war was already lost. Humanity's first strike. Supreme Chancellor Vortis stood frozen in the Council chamber, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. Minutes ago, his fleet had been the strongest in the galaxy. Now, it was nothing but debris floating in space. The Council members around him were in a panic. Some shouted for counterattacks. Others suggested escape. None of them had expected this. A complete, unstoppable invasion. A red light flashed across the chamber. A priority message from Planetary Defense Forces. Vortis opened it. A shaky alien commander appeared on screen. Behind him, explosions lit up the night sky. Supreme Chancellor. The commander's voice was filled with fear. Human ground forces have landed. We can't stop them. Vortis clenched his jaw. How many soldiers do they have? The commander looked away, ashamed. They sent only a few battalions. Vortis' eyes widened. Only a few. The Council had armies numbering in the billions. If they couldn't handle a few human battalions, then something was terribly wrong. A second screen flickered to life. Live footage from the capital streets. The alien soldiers of the Council's Planetary Defense Force were in full retreat. Streets that had been under Council control for centuries now belonged to the invaders. Then the humans came into view. They weren't the weak creatures the Council once believed them to be. Their black exosuits made them look more like war machines than organic beings. Each step they took was precise, calculated. Their weapons roared with fire and thunder, cutting through alien soldiers like they were nothing. And worst of all, they felt no fear. The humans moved forward, unstoppable, as if they already knew they had won. A massive explosion rocked the city. A council skyscraper, one of the largest structures on the planet, collapsed in flames. The United Terran Empire's banner was planted at the heart of the capital. The humans had claimed this world as their own. Vortis could no longer deny the truth. "They're not just here to fight," he whispered. "They're here to conquer." For the first time in his life, the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Council felt true terror. The last line of defense. The council chamber was in chaos. The once powerful rulers of the galaxy were shouting over each other, their voices filled with fear and desperation. Supreme Chancellor Vortis slammed his fist on the table. Enough. The room fell silent. Vortis turned to his war commanders. "Deploy the Doom Fortress." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. The Doom Fortress, a massive planet-sized battle station, was the Galactic Council's ultimate weapon. It had been built centuries ago, hidden deep in space, designed to destroy entire fleets with a single shot. It was meant to be a weapon of last resort, one that had never been used. Now, it was their only hope. Aboard the Doom Fortress, the station came online, its ancient systems awakening from dormancy. Its energy core, powered by a captured neutron star, pulsed like a living heart. Massive plasma cannons moved into position. The Doom Fortress targeted the Iron Fist, the flagship of the human fleet. Commander Xelvorn, watching from the station's control room, bared his insectoid fangs. Fire. A beam of pure destruction erupted from the Doom Fortress, cutting through space at unimaginable speed. The energy blast was large enough to destroy an entire moon. The Galactic Council watched the attack from their screens. The moment the beam struck the Iron Fist, a massive explosion engulfed the human flagship. Xelvorn let out a triumphant hiss. "We did it. Their flagship is gone." But then the smoke cleared. The Iron Fist was still there, untouched. A deep, chilling voice came through the station speakers. "Pathetic." Admiral Hayes' voice was calm, almost amused. Before Xelvorn could react, the Iron Fist returned fire. A single red energy lance cut through the void. It moved too fast to track, too powerful to stop. The Doom Fortress did not even get a chance to raise its shields. For centuries, the Galactic Council had believed the fortress to be indestructible. They had never been more wrong. The energy lance pierced straight through the station, cutting it in half like a knife through paper. Alarms blared. Explosion after explosion erupted inside the battle station. The Doom Fortress, the Council's greatest weapon, began to collapse from within. "No, this isn't possible," Xelvorn gasped as the control room shattered around him. Then, in a final, blinding explosion, the Doom Fortress was erased from existence. Back in the Council chamber, the Council members stood in horrified silence. The Doom Fortress was gone. Their final line of defense had fallen. Vortis felt his legs tremble. For the first time in his reign, he felt true helplessness. A message from the Iron Fist appeared on the main screen. Admiral Hayes' face was calm, his eyes cold. "You were warned." The screen cut to black. The Galactic Council had nothing left. No defenses, no hope. Humanity had won. The fall of the Council. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The Doom Fortress was gone. Their fleets were destroyed. Their armies were in full retreat. Supreme Chancellor Vortis sat in his chair, his claws digging into the armrests. His mind refused to accept the truth, but the evidence was clear. Humanity had crushed them. A desperate voice broke the silence. "We must negotiate." High Lord Sen, his ghostly white skin pale with fear, turned to Vortis. "We have no other option. We must surrender." Vortis' jaws clenched. The Galactic Council had ruled for thousands of years. They had crushed rebellions, destroyed civilizations, and enslaved entire species. And now, they were the ones begging for mercy. A red alarm light flashed across the chamber. A new message from the Iron Fist. Vortis took a deep breath and accepted the transmission. Admiral Hayes appeared on screen, his face calm but unyielding. Behind him, the command deck of the Iron Fist was alive with activity. Humanity's fleet was preparing for the final attack. "This is your last chance, Supreme Chancellor," Hayes said. "Surrender now, and we will spare what remains of your empire." Vortis' claws tightened into fists. The Council had once mocked humans, called them weak, primitive. Now, the most powerful race in the galaxy stood at their doorstep, demanding their submission. The chamber erupted into arguments. Some wanted to fight to the last soldier. Others were ready to surrender immediately. Vortis could not accept defeat. His empire had ruled with fear for generations. If humanity was going to take that power away, then they would burn together. His trembling claws hovered over a hidden console, a secret command that would activate the last fail-safe, the Scorched Earth Protocol. If he pressed it, thousands of Council-controlled planets would be destroyed in an instant, billions of lives wiped out. If the Council could not rule, then no one would. His hand moved closer. Then, the chamber doors exploded inward. A squad of human soldiers in black exo-armor stormed in. Their movements were calm, controlled, deadly. The Council's elite guards tried to fight back. They didn't last 5 seconds. Vortis barely had time to react before a powerful hand grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. Admiral Hayes had arrived, in person. The human's cold, blue eyes locked onto Vortis' reptilian ones. "It's over." Vortis struggled, gasping. You will rule with fear, just as we did." Hayes smirked. "No, we will rule with power. And you." The human leaned in, voice turning into a whisper. "You are nothing now." With a single movement, Hayes tossed Vortis aside like a broken relic. The Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Council collapsed onto the cold floor, defeated. For the first time in history, the Council had fallen. Across the galaxy, news of the Council's defeat spread like wildfire. Some planets celebrated, glad to be free of their rule. Others trembled, knowing a new power had taken its place. But one thing was certain. The Galactic Council was no more, and in its place, a new empire had risen. The United Terran Empire. The age of humanity had begun. A new galactic order. The once mighty Galactic Council was no more. Its leaders were either dead, captured, or in hiding. Across the galaxy, former Council worlds stood in fear and silence, waiting for humanity's next move. Aboard the Iron Fist, Admiral Hayes stood at the command bridge, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy. Every major Council-controlled system was now under human control. The war was over. Humanity had won. But the real question remained: what came next? The first decree of the United Terran Empire. The message was sent to every world, every colony, every species once ruled by the Council. A simple transmission, one voice, one command. Admiral Hayes appeared on every screen. His voice was calm, but his words carried the weight of 1,000 battles. The United Terran Empire now rules this galaxy. The Galactic Council has fallen. Their oppression ends today. Some planets cheered. The Council had ruled through fear and corruption, and many species welcomed humanity's takeover. But others were not so sure. "Humanity is no different," whispered a Xelvari diplomat in hiding. "They are conquerors, just like the Council was." Were they? The fate of the Council worlds. One by one, human fleets arrived at Council-controlled planets. For those who surrendered peacefully, life continued. Governors were replaced. Laws were rewritten. Some alien leaders were allowed to stay in power, under human supervision. But for those who resisted, the consequences were swift and brutal. Entire cities were leveled in orbital bombardments. The remains of the Council's military were hunted down and eliminated. The message was clear: obey or be destroyed. Some species resisted. Secret rebellions formed in the shadows. But they all knew the truth. No one could challenge humanity now. The Council's capital, now a Terran stronghold. The once great capital of the Galactic Council had become a symbol of human power. Where once stood the massive council chamber, now stood the Imperial Tower, the new headquarters of the United Terran Empire. The former Supreme Chancellor Vortis, once the most feared leader in the galaxy, now sat in a cold, dark prison cell beneath the city. His empire was gone. His people, enslaved or dead. He had spent centuries laughing at humanity. Now he served them. The question of mercy. Some human commanders wanted to purge every last trace of the Council's rule. But Admiral Hayes had other plans. "We will not be tyrants," he said, addressing the new rulers of the Terran Empire. "We will be stronger than them. Wiser, we will build an empire that lasts 1,000 years. His officers nodded. They knew what that meant. Not peace, not mercy, but control. Humanity would rule with an iron fist, but a steady hand. And for the first time in history, the galaxy belonged to them. The future of the galaxy. The galaxy had changed. The United Terran Empire now ruled from the core worlds to the outer rim. The flags of the fallen Galactic Council had been torn down, replaced by the sigil of humanity. Alien species whispered in the shadows, wondering what the future held. Would humanity be a fair ruler, or would they become worse than the Council? The first year of Terran rule, Admiral Hayes and his commanders worked swiftly. Council territories were divided into Terran-controlled sectors. Alien warlords who resisted were eliminated. Humans were appointed as governors over major systems. Some planets accepted human rule without question. The Council had ruled with fear and cruelty, and many saw humanity as a better alternative. But others resisted. Rebellions broke out. Small factions of alien freedom fighters, desperate to regain control. Yet every attempted uprising ended the same way. Swift, brutal, merciless. The fate of Supreme Chancellor Vortis. In a dark cell beneath the new Imperial Tower, Vortis sat in silence. Once, he had ruled the galaxy. Now, he was a prisoner in his own capital. One day, Admiral Hayes visited him. Vortis looked up, his reptilian eyes filled with defeat and hatred. "You are no better than we were," he hissed. Hayes smirked. "No, we are better. Because we won." Vortis bared his teeth. "Your empire will fall, just as ours did." Hayes chuckled. "Maybe, but not today." The Supreme Chancellor of the fallen Galactic Council was never seen again. Some say he was executed. Others believe he was sent to a prison world, doomed to live in exile. The truth, it didn't matter. The old rulers were gone. Humanity had replaced them. A galaxy under human rule. The empire grew. Humanity established new laws. New fleets were built. New weapons developed. But whispers spread across the stars. Would the Terran Empire last forever? Would humanity rule with wisdom, or fall to the same corruption as the Council? Some aliens swore loyalty to their new overlords. Others plotted in secret, waiting for the day when they could rise again. But one thing was clear: the age of the Galactic Council had ended, and the era of humanity had begun.